One of the things that I realized when I met Ted is that I had to overcome big humps because he's Dutch and from Colombia. As Spanish people, we are always together and we bring our kids every place, and Ted's mother couldn't understand that. Another thing that it was very difficult for me to understand, his mother had different kind of ways to do things, you know. She used to make sandwiches and then she used to shuffle them like cards, you know, to each person. And that was very insulting to me because in Colombia, when you throw food at people, it's like you don't like them, you know.
That is great, that is good. Let us bless this food.
She does most of the housework because she don't have a full-time job and I'm still working. I'll help her with things, but generally she don't want my help, you know, but put bleach and stuff that you ain't supposed to put bleach in. And most of the time that she was raising kids, and most of the time of our marriage she didn't. That was her full-time job, taking care of the kids. She did most of that and did most of the housework, you know. The type of drinker I was, you know, nobody to drink with, sitting there by yourself watching TV or whatever you might be doing. The kids were kind of in my way, you know, just leave me alone and don't bother me and stuff like that.
Our marriage was a very dysfunctional marriage. I'm the product of an alcoholic father, and when I married Ted, didn't think nothing of it. I knew he was drinking a lot, but I thought all men drink. Ted is a very trusting person, and that's one of the things that when we were having all those problems that I really, really like about Ted, it was that he trusts me. Because I'm a free spirit person, I need my freedom, and he never questioned anything that I do. So that was one of the things that I really got me to work on our marriage, because I thought this guy really trusts me and he gives me the freedom that I need.
Well, not a party, but like to get together.
We don't fight anymore. We just kind of peaceful, sit down and like two adults and try to resolve our problems. Sometimes, because Ted has a hot temper, and when he starts in his screaming mood, you know, that he starts shouting, then I have learned that shouting is the way he releases his nerves. It's not to me, but it's his way of releasing his nerves. So I just remove myself from it. You know, I just go away. I don't put any more wood to the fire, you know, and I just stay away from it. And then when he's ready to talk, then we sit down and talk. I have 4 teenagers in the house, and they were mad at him because, you know, he will change his rules, you know, like he will say, yes, you could go to the party, and then when they were ready to go to the party and he was drunk, then he will say, no, you can't go there. So they were angry at him, and they would say, why don't you stay with this guy? Why don't you divorce him? What was going on in our family it was very destructive, and I didn't like it. And I didn't want my kids to be the product of that destruction. So I seek out help first. I thought about it, and I thought, well, if he cooperates and he decides to go to get help, then I will stay with him, because by then I have learned to love him. And even though we had a lot of problems, I thought he was a pretty good guy too. I did went through the lawyer. I wanted to make sure that he knew that I was serious about this. So when he got the letter from the lawyer that I was going to divorce him, then I guess he had to make a decision.
Fortunately, Maria has a little more patience than I do, and also that she went to look for help before I did. That is probably what kept it together. You know, if we would have gone on the way we were, that I'm sure we wouldn't have made it. This wasn't instantaneous. She was in Al-Anon for about 12 years before I realized that I had a problem. She told me she was going to leave, and I know she just don't say things off the top of her head that she was going to go if I didn't straighten up, you know. And came very close to losing my job and stuff like this, so it could have been a lot different than it is. I went to a treatment center for alcohol and then got into AA. Both of us had a very religious upbringing, and really no room for divorce, no thought of divorce. Even though we weren't real faithful to church when we first got married, we were two different religions, for one thing. She's Catholic and I'm Protestant. I think that helped, and I think that was a big help. And when we got back to it, back to our faith, then it was a lot better.
My mom and dad had no communication with each other. When I got married, I promised myself that I wasn't going to be like them. It was like my mom was a servant to my dad, and I didn't like that. And I didn't like that they never show any affection to each other in front of us. Anything they had to do with sex, it was a taboo, because I was going to a group therapy. And then in that group therapy, we talk about this. So when I said I don't feel anything on sex, when we have sex, I feel that I'm just there to satisfy his desires. And the other woman told me, they said, what? So then they told me, Maria, you have desires too, and you can have feelings, and you can have an orgasm. And that was the first time I heard that word, and I go like, what? What is it? And so that's when I started enjoying Ted. Then when I started doing that, it was, I think Ted liked it a lot. and I like it too. And so our sex life now is wonderful. Now we really feel intimate. Before it wasn't intimacy in it. Before it was like, okay, I'm your object, you use me, and then, goodbye. And now it's like, because I really love you and I really care, I want to share part of my body with you.
I would say it's a very big thing. If you ain't together there, it'd be difficult to be together in other things. Not as important as younger people think it is. I think love is a decision. It's not an emotion. People have the idea that they fall in love with somebody. I think it's infatuation. You like the physical attributes of the other person. After you get married, then you find out there's a bit more to it than just living together or sleeping together or whatever.
Love is being able to give of myself without expecting anything. And love is not jealous. I think if I would have married a jealous person, I would have not been able to stay together. Because, like I said, I love people, and I talk to anybody and everybody, and anybody and everybody is welcome in my house. And so I think love is being able to accept the other person with everything that they have for you to complement each other.
Keep it organized. All right.
Our daughter died 16 years ago when she was a junior in high school. When she died, he was only 3 years sober. So he was still working on his own issues, and then this big issue came along. I knew that when Ted is worried or sad or he has a lot of emotional problems that he has to deal with, he becomes an introvert. He just go into himself and he wants to be by himself. So what he did at that time is he bought the most crash cars. Car that it was good for the junkyard. And he would put it in the garage and he will spend hours and hours there by himself. I respected that. I gave him the time. My healing is with people. So I found a group of parents who their children had died, and so I went to those meetings. You never think that your children are going to die before you do, and especially when they're not sick. But when your child leaves the house, goodbye mom, and I see you later, and then later is dead, it's a pretty shocking thing for the whole family.